Hello everybody and welcome to This Ain't Fake Brother. It is the 27th of November 2014, and on a week where Sting debuted for WWE, there is simply only one thing that could outshine that, and that's CM Punk.
Some punk.
Some old punk.
Some geezer, yeah.
Would you have gone away with it if you was CO Punk, if you some old punk?
Maybe, yeah. But CM, it kind of works.
I think it works pretty good. Ken, there's so much to say about this. He, for those of you who don't know, which I presume is none, he did an interview with Cole Cabana. I guess
it was less of an interview, more just, just from having listened to it, he just basically told stories. He wasn't asked questions or anything, and he just explained his grievances, explained why he left, and explained a lot about the working conditions in that company.
Yeah, he did. I guess I'd always been kind of skeptical on how he was going to come out with the story, if he was going to wait to do a book or something like that. But it obviously makes sense that Colt was going to be the platform in which he used on account of their relationship.
Yep.
There's so much to talk about in this. I guess as an overall, do you feel that do you feel more pro Punk now? Because I know that you've had your issues with him as I did, but after listening to the interview, are you kind of in a situation now where you think he's completely vindicated and WWE are even more of a monster than you thought?
I certainly think there are certain things that have come out that really strongly portray WWE in a very bad light. And WWE is a publicly traded company now, so they like to sell this image of them as family-friendly, wholesome, well-run, and I think the Del Rio story with Cody Barbieri and the racism and stuff that went on, and which is ultimately what got Del Rio his release and got him a payoff, sort of gave us a snapshot behind the scenes and sort of told us that it's not really that different to how it was in the 80s. You know what I mean? There's still a lot of behavior that wouldn't go on in corporate America that's tolerated there.
Yeah.
And what the biggest things that came out of the Punk interview, I mean, there's a lot of things where Vince has, to put it in no simple terms, has fucked him. He said no to him and he said yes to other people for the exact same things, or he's done things just to spite them. But the biggest thing to me would be the concerns around his health. Stories about waking up from knee surgery and being told, we need you back in 2.5 weeks, after a doctor has just told him you need 4, maybe 6 weeks, and Vince is telling him you'll be fine. The doctor kind of basically telling him, well, I know you have a concussion, but what you want me to do about it? And the biggest story of all is that Punk had a lump, and he went to the WWE doctor, who told him that he had a fatty deposit and that it was nothing, and to ignore it. And it would later turn out that it was a staph infection, which was let lie for about 3 months. And bear in mind, he was wrestling all that time on those dirty mats, and he got MRSA in his back, and the doctor told him basically, you should be dead.
Yeah.
And he went straight into hospital where he had an IV hooked up, and he stayed there for a while, and then he eventually came out, but he was on antibiotics for 3 months. So, it's been a real window into what a horrendous environment in many ways that company is. In terms of who comes out looking the better, who comes out looking the worst, I've been negative on Punk since he left, based on the feeling that he moans too much and he wants too much, and he'd never be happy unless he got his exact way. And that's certainly borne out in the interview when he talks about how his anger at having to do jobs for The Rock back-to-back, and then The Undertaker at WrestleMania, then again Brock Lesnar at SummerSlam. And when you put it all four of them together like that, it does sound really bad, but there wasn't one where it maybe wasn't the right decision. The only one I would question would maybe have been the one to Brock. I felt he should have won that match.
Oh, okay.
Given that the Brock had lost to Cena and Triple H already. But anyway, the point is, the one area where, I don't want to say I changed my viewpoint, because this didn't shock me, and if I'd known this was the case all along, it would have coloured how I thought of things. He spoke about how he did say on the interview, he listed a couple of stories, but he said the overall reason, the biggest reason, the number one reason was his health. And he talked about lying in bed and thinking about all the money he was earning, and he's living his dream, but he's unhappy. Forget about the injuries, he's physically unhappy. And not to go into too much detail, but I've been through a scenario in my own life where I worked very hard to achieve a certain position in my career, and I was earning good money, and I was in a job with some power, and it'd take me 5 or 6 years to get to where I was, but I was miserable.
Sure.
And I was able to take a step back, and I went to my own manager and said, "Will you please demote me? I don't want this extra money or this extra responsibility anymore." And a lot of people looked at me like I had 10 heads, but I felt like in life it really isn't about how much money you're earning; it's about how happy you are.
Sure.
And to hear him say that that's what was number one in his mind, that's a big thing, because I think in wrestling that level of clarity is refreshing.
Yeah.
But so that would be some of my thoughts on the interview.
Very, very good, Ken. Yeah, no, for those of us who were critical of Punk, the man was told that he should be dead. So let's all be very happy that didn't happen.
Yeah.
And basically, he gives a great account of the final day. Now, this was a meeting with Hunter.
And Vince, yeah.
Impromptu. Hunter was going to try and leave the room.
Yeah.
And they went over everything, which included Punk not headlining WrestleMania 29, which he felt he should have.
He goes into depth in
Yeah.
the interview over and over again about headlining WrestleMania is what he wanted to do.
That's all he wanted. It's amazing, Ken, really, that the rumors of like him wanting to headline WrestleMania, him having health issues, him not wanting to face
Triple H,
and all these things, people are like, oh, these are the reasons. It's like, nope, that's actually the reason.
Yeah. Well, to me, that does vindicate. A lot of times, we you and I, we don't have a lot of sources in the industry. You obviously have one very famous one, but we won't name names, of course, Neil.
Okay.
But we rely on people like Dave Meltzer, Dave Shearer, Mike Johnson, Wade Keller.
I would never rely on Dave Shearer, but that's okay.
Well, you know what I mean. But you certainly did over the weekend when he broke the Sting story.
Yeah,
It was
good,
Mike
okay,
Johnson,
very
actually.
good.
But
Yeah, it was Mike Johnson. Yeah, thank you.
But the point being that you will read them being discredited in certain wrestlers' books. I know I read Bischoff's book recently, and he just slaughtered Meltzer and said it was all incorrect, and that there's a quid pro quo thing going where basically if you're given information, you were given favourable coverage and that sort of stuff. But it just goes to show that it was accurate. And I also remember last year when Jim Ross, quote unquote, retired. And now he's out there openly talking about how he was shit canned, which was the story in the Observer at the time. So it just goes to show that Meltzer and co are very reliable people.
Absolutely. Now, I had been saying for months that I felt it was definitely a health issue. I don't know if you remember, Ken. I was literally having this conversation with somebody last night in a pub as well. But I remember specifically watching the Royal Rumble and seeing him call over the trainer and seeing him lying on the ground in the corner for an inordinate amount of time. And he goes into detail in the interview. And this was kind of it. So they said to him on the Monday he walked out.
Can we just tell that Royal Rumble story real quick?
Oh, please.
So he gets concussed by Kofi Kingston, who he says, God bless Kofi Kingston, but... so Kofi concusses him, and then he calls over the trainer, who says, "What do you want me to do?"
Yep.
So eventually, after a few minutes of Punk going back to work, he gets the word from a referee at ringside, Kane is going to come out and dump you now. And CM Punk, of course, being CM Punk, he just goes, "Oh no, fuck that," and he stays in anyway, which I think was one of those places where he doesn't come off that well, because he's basically saying he's slaughtering the company for making him work hurt, but then in the same breath he's saying, "Oh, I wasn't gonna let Kane dump me," and that's he comes across like somebody. He's a petulant child, you know what I mean? He's an extraordinarily large ego.
I think he reminded me a lot of what people say Shawn Michaels was like in the late 90s. I think there's a lot of elements there.
Yeah,
not quite as drug fueled, obviously, but I think the sense of self-worth is similar.
Mm. Yeah.
But yeah, so they obviously, as you said, they asked him to do the testing, and they said he wasn't concussed, even though he knew he was. And this is basically
then they told him to go out and run the ropes, and he said, "I don't want to run the ropes. I feel dizzy." And then they were still demanding that he did. And then so he stormed into Vince's office and said, "I need to talk."
So I think it's some of the most you can obviously go and listen to the interview if you want to hear the backstory on what led to him being very upset about things. But I think for me, besides the D-Day itself, the most interesting thing about the interview is what came after. The idea that Vince reached out to him just a week later and said, "Are you ready to come back to work, pal?" And the fact that Hunter tried to talk to him, the fact that they let him go on the day of his wedding, they actually fired him.
So that's the story for people who don't know. Basically, he was told he was suspended for 2 months, which I guess was their way of not paying him. Yeah. And then all of his royalty checks stopped coming. And then there was a period of silence, and then Hunter calls him 2 days before his wedding, says, "Do you have a minute to talk?" And Punk says, "I always have time to talk, but can we just leave it till after my wedding?" And Triple H says yes. And then on the morning of his wedding, he receives a FedEx telling him that he's been dismissed.
Yeah.
Been terminated. Now, I mean, part of me is like, that's clearly what he wanted all along. So, he kind of sells this as though it's a stab in the heart, but the timing of it is clearly purposeful. And that reminds me of a story that we almost touched off last week, and I figured it was perfect time to tell it. Was in J.J. Dillon's book. J.J., for those who don't know, worked side by side with Vince and relocated to Connecticut from 1989 until 1996. Okay. JJ had a modest house which was worth about $150,000 in Connecticut, and they were looking to buy something bigger because their family had grown. And they saw this house that they really liked, but it was $450,000, and JJ at the time was earning $200,000 a year, and just felt like he couldn't afford that, and his credit rating wouldn't allow it. So they were looking at other houses anyway, and he was sitting telling Pat and Vince over lunch about this gorgeous house, And Vince says, "We're gonna find a way for you to get this house, right?" And Pat says, no, I'm not sure I want to spend that much. And Vince tells him over a number of days, he pushes on him that I really want you to have roots in this town. You're going to be here for the long term. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they basically, the company ends up lending JJ most of the money. And Vince tells him, it's a good faith loan. We'll take it back out of your paycheck. Doesn't tell him he's charging him 5% on it, okay? So JJ's paying it back over a number of years, and he's already kind of bitter at the fact that Vince kind of used this as an opportunity to make money, But that's Vince being Vince. But then when the steroid trial happens, afterward, Vince basically comes to the office and says, we spent $4 million on legal fees, so there's going to have to be some cuts. Now, the key here was there were 8 people who had their salary cut in the office, and all of them were ex-wrestlers. We're talking the Briscoes, Patterson, JJ, Rene Goulet, that kind of thing, right? Yeah. And everybody else didn't have their salary touched, but Vince still had the mindset of these are wrestlers, I can fuck with them,
Okay.
So overnight, JJ was the one who suffered the most. He went from earning $205,000 a year to $120,000. Took a 45% pay cut. Okay.
Wow.
So then he can't make up the payments on his mortgage, and Vince knows about this because Pat is stressed, All the while, the work environment is this weird thing where you have weekends and evenings off, but you're afraid to leave the house because if you leave the house and Vince calls and you're not there and he wants you over, shit's going down. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So JJ tells stories about how he would just sit in his house all weekend while his family went out because the phone might ring. And one time he went out to buy milk and he came back and, he didn't have an answering machine in that day. So he rings Pat because he would sometimes just ring Pat to see if he'd heard from Vince at all. Yeah. And whoever's in Pat's house tells him he's over with Vince. So he eventually rings Vince, finds out what's going on, and then Vince gives him a grilling when he gets there. Like, where were you? Think about this, it's Saturday afternoon. You know what I mean?
It's outrageous.
So anyway, so JJ all the while is earning $120,000 a year, and he's really, really struggling to make his mortgage payments. It gets to the point that he was going to default on the house. Only one of his uncles died, and he got about $11,000 out of the will, which allowed him to make a mortgage payment. And he's all the while he's trying to sell the house. Now he bought it for $450,000, and the market is really soft, so he's getting offers like $300,000, $325,000, $350,000, which would leave him knee-deep in negative equity. So eventually he gets the house sold for $400,000, okay? Sure. And he walks into Vince's office and he tells Vince that he's quitting as of this moment because it's nothing to do with... And Vince tries to ask, do you not like me anymore, blah, blah. And JJ relates the story exactly as I've just related it to you. Yeah. And tells Vince, it's nothing to do with liking you or not liking you. I can't look you in the eye. I have no respect for you. And Vince being Vince, in the same way as Punk talks about how Vince got teary-eyed, Vince gets really emotional. And he hugs Pat and he begs him to see if he can make it right. Yeah, sorry. And he begs JJ to see if he can make it right and all this. And JJ's just mind made up. And he doesn't have a job to go to. He's just determined, I'm gone. Yeah. So JJ's packing up his house and getting ready to go. And the phone rings. And it's Vince. And Vince tells him that the rest of the loan, which is a substantial sum of money, still over 6 figures, is wiped. And he's going to pay him his salary in full for 2 years of severance. Wow. And all that he asks is that he doesn't go to work anywhere else, okay? Yeah. So JJ's like, perfect, okay. By the time JJ gets to where he's going, he's moving house, he gets a call from Vince's lawyers. The 2 year offer, the 2 years severance is revoked, and they want the repayment of the loan, which was the loan was basically dependent on Dylan's employment.
Yeah, of course.
So now that he's not working there anymore, he's liable for the full sum.
full whack,
Vince
yeah.
wants it back now with interest. Dylan has no other option but to declare bankruptcy and lose all of his money and everything he's ever worked for and earned. And in the end, he was undergoing so much stress and put so much strain on the marriage that his wife left him.
Oh, no.
And he had to pay alimony to her forever. So now J.J. Dillon is 72 years of age and he's still working in the Department of Corrections, so he can pay alimony to his ex-wife and kids while he lives with his mother, who's dying. And that is what Vince McMahon did to J.J. Dillon, and that is who Vince McMahon is, and that's where Punk is going. But it just reminded me of that because Vince is he's such a fucking piece of shit. He's a terrible human being.
JJ ended up working with them again. He did lots of stuff for
yeah,
DVDs, and he went into the Hall of Fame.
I will say, just to speak for JJ, he does say in the book, and this book was written 10 years ago, and this before they ever worked together again,
okay,
that he doesn't hold any ill will. He's let it all go. It's in the past, but that he doesn't have any respect for Vince.
What an incredible guy.
No, I know, yeah.
Fuck me. All right, well, just one more thing, I guess. It's very close to home on the Punk front is, in terms of that JJ story, it locks in as well. In order to get his royalties back,
yeah,
after being fired, he basically brought them to court.
Yeah, but
Threatened
got a
to
lawyer
anyway.
to send them letters, and he got a payoff.
And yeah, he got a payoff that he can't talk about, but he says that it's basically he's gotten everything he wanted, which is an amazing victory over them.
Do you know
but
what
also,
I found?
just one thing. Also, the fact that they wanted him to sign a non-disclosure about basically the entire story,
and he told him to
and he
fuck off.
didn't, and that's just amazing. And so, two questions.
They also wanted him to put out
a statement.
like Del Rio.
Yeah. So okay. So the twofold question. The first is, do you think that Triple H and Vince are absolutely distraught that this do you think they've been waiting for this to happen and now it's happened and they're very, very upset?
Yeah.
And secondly, okay, that's fine. And secondly, do you think that hurts any chances of him ever coming back, or did you get the impression from listening to him today that regardless of what they want, he's not going?
I think in his mind he'll never be back, but I also think it's 2014, he's 35, and Sting just made his debut at 55 at the Survivor Series, so you're looking at 2 decades in which he could come back. So while I firmly believe right now the decision and the belief on all sides, I would say, is that they'll never work together again,
Yep.
I still wouldn't necessarily think that's the case.
Okay, excellent stuff.
Can I just add one thing?
Of course you can.
I thought one thing that gave us an insight into the character of CM Punk, of Phil Brooks, is he does tell a story, when you're talking about the royalties, about finding a check that was, and I quote, for more money than most people will earn in a lifetime. So
Yeah.
you're probably talking high 6 figures.
Sure.
A merchandise check that he hadn't cashed and asked them to reissue to him. But it just goes to show you, because remember earlier in the year, Steve Austin was talking about how he'll come back to make that Mania money. I always thought he was off base with that because Punk wasn't motivated by money. And I mean, the fact that, can you imagine losing a check for, say, $500,000, forgetting you had it?
Yeah, I find it weird. It's almost a bit critical because doesn't he tell the story that he comes through the curtain at 29 and they're like, "Oh, you stole the show. You should have gone on last." And he says, "Well, pay me like I went on last." So there's.
But I think
that's them acknowledging him.
Yes,
Yeah,
that's
okay.
what that is. Yeah.
Excellent stuff. All right, so there's just a couple more tad bits of news to get into. There's only one real other thing here. It was reported by Figure 4, as in the Brian Alvarez aspect of Wrestling Observer, rather than the
You mean the
Dave
fella who
Meltzer.
does jiu-jitsu and hosts the radio shows who doesn't watch wrestling?
Yeah, the radio host. Rock versus Rusev being earmarked.
God, I don't believe it.
Do you know? You just simply don't believe it.
Simply because 2 reasons. One, Brian often has some very off-base information. I think Brian speaks to, I don't know,
Evan Bourne.
it's one of the guys who puts up the ring or something. Do you know what I mean? Because he often
Tony
has
Chimmel.
yeah, no, he often has information that's just way off base. But 2, Rock has said in every single goddamn interview he will not come back unless he thinks he can top the numbers he did with Cena. And well, first of all, those numbers won't exist anymore because there's no pay-per-view. But second of all, there's no way a match with Rusev is that big.
Yeah, no, I agree. Yeah, okay, that's pretty much it. That the Punk stuff just really sweeped everything, away.
Let's do podcasts before, because then we'll just do Survivor Series and Raw together. Makes sense, doesn't it?
Okay. Do we have the classic? You have your classic Survivor Series review as well?
No, that's next week because we're doing this week's Survivor Series. Remember?
Oh, perfect. Okay, excellent. All right, let's go through podcasts.
Hang on a sec. Have you watched Survivor Series 1994?
Yeah.
You're ahead of me for once.
I know, that's amazing.
Good.
It's fucking horrible.
Do you have notes?
Yeah, it's funny.
Okay.
There's some very funny stuff.
Okay, Grant.
Okay,
anyway, let's get on with the podcast.
Okay, sure, podcast. So obviously, go to Colt Cabanas for CM Punk's. That itself is just incredible. Nothing really major on the Observer this week. No real big guests. They had some jobber from ROH on. Jim Ross.
BJ Whitmer.
There you go. Jim Ross had Wade Keller. He does this thing where he reviews pay-per-views with people from
and he's got,
insider sites.
Yeah, he had Dave last month, and he's got Jason Powell, I think, next month.
Yeah, exactly. So
he's rotating it, he's keeping everyone sweet.
He's keeping everyone sweet. I fucking hate Wade Keller.
So do I, but I thought in this format, I felt like they both evened each other out. Neither was as annoying as I find them.
Wow, I agree, but I still had a hard time with him.
I have to say he actually provided me a fresh insight in some places, and I actually thought to myself, maybe I will take him up on that 99 cents offer.
Oh yeah, they're doing that, aren't they? 99 cents, huh? Let's see. Jericho had Seth on today, and I haven't got to it yet. It's supposed to be really good.
Yeah, it is. Actually, on the subject, let's tell that Shield story from the Punk thing.
Oh yeah.
Vince originally had an idea for a group which was going to be Punk's group, which would have been Seth Rollins, Big Show, and Daniel Bryan. And Punk pitched them Dean Ambrose, Seth Rollins, and Cassius Ohno, Chris Hero, and Vincent. I can just picture Vincent Hunter going, no Chris Hero. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Just shaking their heads. The fat guy, no. And so that's how the Shield came about. And it was originally to be associated with Punk, and then they just totally broke them apart. And an interesting tidbit Seth mentioned was that they wanted to break them up a lot earlier. Yeah. Twice. They wanted to break them up around Survivor Series 2013. Then again, obviously, we'll remember around January, February this year. And then they still broke them up before the rest of them were ready, which is interesting because I think one of the reasons that Raw is third is because they had two hot acts at the start of the year, the Shield and the Harper family, and they've broken them both up for no apparent reason. Like, I mean, whatever about how pointless breaking up the Shield was, there's actually no reason or explanation for the Wyatt family, and all three of them are weaker for it. It's very funny.
The interesting thing as well, it came out this week in regards to the Shield's debut, was they were originally supposed to come out with like actual like
proper
riot gear.
Hardcore Shield, and they kind of did. Didn't they have like nightsticks maybe? If they
no,
did.
They didn't have the nightsticks.
They had nothing.
No. The only thing that was kept was a bulletproof vest. Vince saw them and came to his senses. Actually, another thing, going back to the Punk interview, fascinating stuff from Vince. He was told if he didn't turn heel, in 2012, that Rock was going to face Daniel Bryan for the belt.
Yeah.
It's just amazing, like how close some things.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that's bullshit. Do you really picture Daniel Bryan in there? I don't know.
Yeah, because the segment they did was with Daniel Bryan and The Rock on that show that Punk turned.
Was it?
Yeah, they were positioning Bryan still pretty high during that time. Because do you remember, Bryan went from...
Oh, that was during the AJ thing, wasn't it?
Yeah, so Bryan went straight into the Sheamus... He did the Punk feud and then a Sheamus feud, and like he feud with Punk for the belt. So they had high hopes for him at that stage.
Such a waste, that feud.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Okay, so Steve Austin had Bill Apter on last Thursday. That was interesting. This week he had a Thanksgiving thing, and at the start of the week he had Bray on out of character. What did you not like about this? This was the real deal. This is him. This is IRS's son. Son of IRS.
He thinks an awful lot of himself for a mediocre promo and a shit worker, doesn't he?
Yeah, he did try to vindicate a lot of what he said, saying that like there's always a reason. Everything he says has meaning, Ken. You're just not intellectually
the confidence
mature enough to hear it.
I like that he has the confidence that you think he might be someone who'd speak up about things from time to time, okay? Mm-hmm. And I think that he has that thing that...
puts a lot of work into, clearly.
He has that thing that I think, I always go back to Bret Hart. Bret Hart clearly took it all far too seriously and believed his own bullshit. But that was what made Bret Hart so fantastic,
Yeah.
And I mean, all the top guys have it, you know what I mean? But Austin has it. It's just Bret's always the one who, I think, in his interviews comes across the most delusional, But anyway, so he has that, and I like that about him. But he also, he's talking about just the way he refers to his work, the reverence he gives it. I mean, look, he's good, but he's no Husky Harris, I actually listened to this, was just thinking, why didn't he just stick with Husky Harris?
Because it was awful.
No, Husky Harris is much better.
It was so
Bray
bad.
Wyatt. No,
Because
he's
anytime
great.
they gave him a promo,
5 stars he was.
anytime they gave Husky Harris a promo, I disagree respectfully. He would cut this weird promo where he had this weird smile on his little round fat face because he didn't have a beard, and he'd cut this like he looked like a really weird petulant child. I'd be like, yeah, and that is what Bray Wyatt is, but just represented in that package or presented in that package would have been terrible.
Yeah.
I always felt when he did a promo with Husky Harris, I was like, why does he come off so creepy? But now he looks like a creep, so it's fine.
Yeah, I don't know if I'd call it fine. Let's move on here.
Well, hold
It was-
on.
it was an interesting interview in
Before we
place.
move on, I can't believe that you haven't brought
Tell
up...
Steve likes him.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. But he liked him since Husky Harris. So.
But he doesn't like the promos, and because he was trying to be nice about it. But you know the way Steve is with his guests.
Yeah.
He doesn't front up about it. He was kind of like,
Remember when he
"So
told
Dad's,
Cena-
the
do you-
promos,
do you
not
remember-
sure about blah blah blah."
Do you remember he told Cena that he goes, at the very end of the Cena interview, he goes, can you do one more thing for me? And he was like, sure. And I goes, you need to lay in that SDF a bit more.
yeah.
I
I do
was like,
remember that.
oh, for fuck's sake. That's
I always remember when he tweeted CM Punk on Twitter. Do you remember this?
oh, when he said,
He lay
laid
his
in
shit
for
in his TV. Yeah, it was great.
When you look at some of Austin's punches back in the day, it's like, no.
Austin's punches were pretty.
He
pretty
hit you there with like the very edge of his
heavy.
He was very weird at times.
By the way, one thing that I thought was very funny in the Punk interview is when he called Ryback the steroid guy.
Yeah,
And he talked about how Ryback just beat the fuck out of him.
if you want any more confirmation on that, amazing. But just the one thing about the Bray interview, I can't believe you haven't brought up the most shocking element of the interview, that he admitted it all came about from having a chat with Waylon Mercy.
Yes! A dangerous Dan! I couldn't believe it. I was just like, I knew it. It's just Waylon fucking Mercy. I remember this time I was having to sleep and I was like, oh my god. It's actually just Dangerous Dan Spivey, like. So do you know where Dangerous Dan got that gimmick from?
No, I don't.
Have you ever seen the movie Cape Fear?
Oh yeah. He got it
He's-
from the heel in Cape Fear.
Yeah, the
In the original, or the
Bobby
one
De Niro.
Oh, the Bobby De Niro. Wasn't your man who did in the first Cape Fear supposed to be way better?
I don't know. I don't know who it was, but if the original was way better, De Niro was sensational. Waylon Mercy was mediocre, and what does that leave? Way Bryant as Mick Foley called him
Way
that time.
Bryant.
Remember Mick Foley did that? Remember that? Do you not remember that?
Yes.
It's such an easy one to do.
Way Bryant. All right, let's get to the 24th annual Survivor Series. Fandango and Justin Gabriel. This is the new and improved Fandango. This is on the pre-show. No, first off, I'm going to tell my story about Survivor Series. So I was going down to Mayo.
Why? Yes, saw that on the Facebook.
Yeah, okay. So basically what happened was I'm getting married in Mayo, and my fiance and wife-to-be does talks in schools as part of her job. So she had to go down and be in Mayo on Monday.
She's a teacher.
No, she's not a teacher.
What does she do?
She works for Concern.
No,
So she goes around spreading the
For some reason I thought she was a
message.
teacher.
She used to be a
So
teacher.
I've only known her for 5 years, Neil. I wouldn't worry about it. Go on.
A bit more. But, okay, so what happened was this. She had to do a talk on Monday morning in Mayo. So we said, well, why don't we just kill two birds with one stone? You know, it's on the company's dime anyway, a charity's dime as well, so I might really take the piss and get a few raps out of it.
Nice.
So I'll hop in the caboose and we'll head down on Sunday, do some wedding stuff, and stay at the hotel for free. I'll come back with you on Monday morning. Great, little holiday, get that done. So, perfect. I ring up the fucking hotel last week, stressed to them that it was of the highest importance they have a HDMI input in their televisions.
Okay, yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So I get talking to this night porter because I left it late because I'm a very busy man. He says, of course we do, yeah. And I was like, are you sure now? Are you sure you
God.
know what a HDMI is? Because he is from the shticks.
Yeah.
No offense. But he assured me that every room has these. So we arrive in the room, okay? Arrive at about 8:30. And first thing I notice is the television is the size of my laptop. So even if it was to have a HDMI cable, which it didn't,
Was it an old box or was it?
it wasn't a box, but
Okay.
it had like VGA. It didn't even have VGA actually.
Oh, God.
I think it had S video, and I didn't come equipped.
Okay.
So I was like, even if it did have HDMI, right?
Mm-hmm.
The laptop on my fucking knees in the bed
Was
would have
better.
been a bigger
Yeah,
screen,
yeah.
technically. I thought ahead though, Ken.
Yeah.
I brought down a projector.
I know you did. I saw this on the Facebook.
So here I am going, right, fine, we'll just have
We'll
to do this.
project it.
No, project it. So I get the table, get the bedside locker. I'm walking around the room with the projector.
Working out where to put it.
I'm
yeah.
working out where to put it. And everywhere has a picture on the wall. Of course, they're screwed into the walls.
Ah,
Because
yeah,
if
yeah.
you never know, people from Mayo have a tremendous fetish for stealing artwork. I think they covered that in the film The General. But anyway, here I am looking. And the only place that has a proper kind of Fox screen for the projector is, of course, at the very top of the bed.
Okay.
So we've got an issue. We've got no more headrests if we're going to try this.
Okay.
So here's what I do. I put the table at the end of the bed,
Uh-huh.
put a bedside locker on its side,
Right.
on top of the table, tilt it, put the projector on that, and I get the two leather chairs that were at the table
Mm-hmm.
and put them backwards into the bed as new headrests and turn the covers and pillows on the bed around. 100-inch screen. It took a lot of work,
Oh,
and it took me
dear.
20 minutes to disassemble it at 10 o'clock the next morning after having 4.5 hours sleep because we had to check out. So I had to wake up early to do it.
Yeah.
So I'm just loving it, you know. So I
Okay.
go and I go to log on to W Network. Blocked.
Geo blocked.
No, because I've the DNS switched on my
Mm-hmm.
laptop. They had a firewall that said I couldn't access it because of swimsuit and lingerie, apparently. So at
So
this
you find a
stage,
proxy or what
at
you
this
do?
stage, oh Ken, I'm losing it, right?
I'd say so.
I run out and then I start complaining to the guy desk about the HDMI as if it would have made a difference.
Yeah, okay.
I'm just losing it. We ring another hotel. This is after everything's set up. Ring another hotel. Just ask them. We get the hotel to go onto the WWE network to see if it's still blocked or not. Right?
Right.
This is just outrageous stuff.
I
But
can't believe you did that.
but eventually, what I did was, I kept trying the proxy. Okay, I tried different proxy browsers, and I got in. But the thing is, the proxies just overrode the firewall.
Right.
They have their own DNS settings though. So yeah, it was a proxy and it was working,
But
but it was
now
a
you
proxy from Europe.
Mayo, yeah.
So from Mayo to be specific.
Sweet
So
Jesus.
do you know what I had to do? And thankfully it turned out to be. It took me an hour to actually find out about this. It was an extension on Chrome that allows Chinese people to view YouTube.
Right.
So I had to download this extension.
Right.
It allowed me to get over the firewall. It registered my fake American US unblocked DNS settings, and there I was watching 100-inch screen and Steve Borden with very shoddy makeup.
That was more entertaining than the first 2 hours of the Survivor Series.
So we'll fly through them.
Yes.
The thing about Fandango is he's got a shirt on now, and he's got Rosa with him.
Why
and they
would
do
you
a little
put
dance.
Rosa in this dress and cover up those beautiful bouncing bosoms of hers?
You see, she can't dance either. When she was with the
I don't need her
Matadors,
to dance. I need to just sit there and look hot.
but when she was with Primo and Epico, do you remember the little
Yeah,
thing?
yeah.
She was grand at
It's
that.
very simple.
Yeah, she can't be doing this ballroom stuff with him.
No, I don't.
Salsa, whatever
But
it's
you know
called.
what I mean? When, at least when Layla was with him, she dressed the part. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I presume they'll switch it up a bit. I don't know,
Hopefully.
but he's even more conservative, so.
Yeah. it's-
No loud colours anymore. The music's gone.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not good for him.
So Justin Gabriel, who I can only presume is doing double duty because he appeared in the tag match later, is that
Oh,
right?
yeah.
He put Fandango over, much like he would do the next night on Raw if this
Yeah.
wasn't enough for you. Then for some reason we had the injured Jack Swagger who couldn't compete in the main event against
Yeah.
Cesaro.
Great stuff.
We had
Poor Cesaro.
Cesaro go over. Next
No,
we...
Swagger went
Sorry,
over.
we had Swagger go over. Next we had Vince McMahon arriving in a limo, and the show went on the air. So Vince came out with Hunter
Raw
and
began.
Stephanie. Raw, yeah, it was very Raw-esque, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was fine with it though.
Yeah.
Because I knew I was coming to the show and I was like, it's a one-match show and I just looked at the cards like, how the fuck are they filling 3 hours here?
Yeah, and it didn't help that one of the 5 announced matches they booked to go 20 seconds.
Yeah. Which was so weird, wasn't it? Given that they gave the women's tag 15 minutes.
Yeah, they just thought it was a cute idea, I think. So anyway, basically, this was just Vince telling them that they needed to be tested in the business and corporate world. They'll be tested, so they need to be tested here. He brought Cena out, and Stephanie basically said, well, you know, even if we do lose, we'll still be able to pull the strings from Stamford. Isn't that right? And Vince said, well, no. He said that they still have marketing and commerce, I think is what he said, roles.
Legal.
But legal,
No,
he
finance
said,
and marketing.
I think he said maybe even legal.
Yeah.
As if most of that's still over Hunter's head.
Mhm.
But and that was it. And then they announced that wait, they put another caveat on this. They had the SmackDown one that if Cena's team lose, everybody but Cena gets fired. The caveat was that only Cena can bring them back.
Talk about spoiler alert.
Oh,
you know?
definitely. Okay, so only Cena can bring them back if they win. Golden Stardust against the Usos, against Miz and Mizdow, against Los Matadors for the tag team titles. This was a match that was just played up completely.
They just kept teasing
Yeah.
Mizdow tagging in. There was nothing to the match. It was 2 stars. And Miz and Mizdow won the match.
Yeah, and Mizdow was one of the most over things the entire night and the next night on Raw, and the crowd really enjoyed the gimmick with him. But he basically came in and won the match for the team and started to do some mannerisms, not like Sandow, but just different to the Miz before he fell back into character. It's a nice little slow burn there. Then the highlight of the show so far for me, they announced that Steve Austin's going to have a live video podcast on the network with Vince.
I don't really like that. I think if it means that it's going to be basically a 45-minute podcast because apparently it's only going to get an hour slot on the network.
Vince is a busy man. Either way, it was probably.
I just was hoping we get 2 episodes out of it. And if it's on the network, there's going to be all sorts of parameters put on it, I think.
Yeah. Maybe.
Unless maybe they're going to do 2 hours and the second hour will be... Because I was thinking to myself, what does Austin gain out of this? I mean, he gets a bit of press out of it, but the show will already have been out there, so who's going to download it?
I presume that one will be the network, and then they might do another.
If they do that, then that's a good deal. Then we get 2 hours out of it,
Okay, so we had Adam Rose and the Bunny playing with toys. They ran into Titus and Heath, who are now back together, because they weren't for a while, and they challenged them to a tag team match. Then we had another tag team match. It was traditional Survivor Series with... Oh, by the way, I don't know if you noticed this, but Eden was doing the ring announcing on the show.
Brandy Rhodes.
And the poor woman, the sentence that she had to say before this match, I believe it was something like, next up is a traditional 8-person Divas Elimination Survivor Series
tag team
match or something. It was incredible. Anyway, God bless her. It was Natalia, Naomi, Alicia.
Justin Roberts would have nailed it though.
Probably. I would have, yeah. And Emma against... Cena! Did you ever was the way Chimmel used to go, Superstar?
Yeah. Rated R Superstar.
What the fuck? That's always...
That was a gag with Edge,
It was certainly a gag. Paige, Summer Rae, Cameron and Layla were the thing. I won't even go through the eliminations.
The babyfaces won 4-0.
There was tremendous We Want Miz chance.
By the way, since when is Alicia Fox a babyface?
Since Paige dumped her. I didn't realise this either.
Right, okay.
Yeah, I had no idea.
Moving along.
Next up, Tyson Kidd was going crazy after the matches if he won. And they didn't play that up at all on Raw, so who knows. This is where me and you are going to disagree.
Okay, can we just, before we disagree,
can
we agree on something?
I hope so.
Totally, I don't know why this just popped into my head. I do know why. Do you know, we were discussing Rosa Mendez and Fandango a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
One of the things that we should have discussed on the podcast was Dave Meltzer's brother-in-law's meeting with Rosa Mendez, which he referenced twice on 2 different podcasts, about how she was such a nice lady and how she was telling him that she doesn't get to win on television. I was like, hang on a second, please explain to me the circumstances of this meeting, the length of the conversation. Were you confused at all by this?
Very confused. He kind of alluded to the fact that she follows his brother-in-law.
What? I didn't spot that.
Yeah, she as if I think for whatever reason I was listening to it in work, so I put it back. So I heard this twice, this certain section.
But he did. He brought it up twice though as well.
No. I even heard him say twice. Yeah, no. Do you know what? I listened to it in work, and then myself and Claire listened to it last night.
Okay.
In the background, and yeah, he said it. He basically said she wouldn't leave him alone. I don't know what's going on there.
No, very strange altogether.
But it's very rare for Dave to reveal his source.
Yeah.
It's kind of... It really knocked me for 6. I was like, what? I really couldn't... Okay, Dean Ambrose against Waylon Wyatt. I really...
No, come on. Bray Mercy.
I really liked this match.
Yeah.
Because it was a completely different formula. Basically, the story of the match was that nobody got a discernible advantage. It was constant back and forth for a good 12 minutes. This included the...
Good is a strong word there.
This is including the announcers really putting over the fact that they're both crazy. This was obviously put into practice when Bray got on the mic, said, it could be easier than all this, Dean. We're more alike than you know. He brought in the chair to the ring and gave it to Dean Ambrose, and then Dean Ambrose hit him with a chair and killed him with death for about 6 minutes.
It was so funny. He gives him the chair, okay, and you're sitting there going, right, okay, so you've been having a wrestling match for 10 minutes here, but now you're doing the spot you do with Cena, where is he mad enough to use this chair? I was like, why would you do this with Wyatt or with Ambrose of all people?
Yeah.
But the best thing was in the execution of it. Bray's standing there with his arms wide open going, hit me with the chair. But of course, we can't do chair shots to the head anymore. So they have to kind of pause, and then Bray's going to turn around, then turn back, and Dean does the old hit him in the stomach.
Yeah.
At the side of the chair, then him in the back. I just thought it was so funny.
Oh, I didn't think about that.
I thought this match was... I thought the bulk of the match was 3 stars, and then from the moment Waylon picked the microphone, it was -5 stars.
Yeah, I don't know what it is with me. I'm not disliking finishes of Dean Ambrose matches the way as everyone else is. I don't know why.
Well, I think you just obviously don't like him, because obviously since they're making him less and less over with each finish.
I actually thought this did... hey, look, I didn't think he was going to beat Bray clean in the middle. No. So in terms of making Dean look good, I was happy with
That's
this.
True. It was just... okay, there's another...
He killed him dead with all
the
this stuff.
funniest thing, though, was when he took out the ladder and was like, he climbs the ladder! And then the music plays. And it's just like, okay, why did he take the ladder out?
Yeah, they just need to have the ladder there, right?
And there's nothing. They're having a TLC match, but there's no reason for them to have a TLC match. So I can only presume.
This happens now, though, Ken. Like that Hunter.
No,
Ash
but that means it's going to be a pinfall TLC match, which is just you can't do that. Like,
oh right.
that's what they did with Nash and Hunter. Remember?
Oh God, yeah.
You can't do that. Why couldn't they just have like a ladder match? And well, no, you couldn't do that. But
Well,
I don't know. I just think they'll have a good match, no doubt. You know, Wayland can be carried. So, but I don't like pinfall versions of the TLC match. But I will say before the finish. Like, just the second someone starts talking on the microphone in the middle of a wrestling match, like, why have I watched the last
You
12
didn't complain when Rock did it.
I was just going to say, it didn't work for me when The Rock did it. The only person who ever got away with it was Jerry Lawler, because by the time he was doing it in the WWF in his mid-40s, he was a comedy heel, you know what I mean?
So you didn't like...
Which I suppose Bray is as well.
You didn't like when Rock would become a cameraman halfway through his matches?
No, and I didn't like when he'd pick up the announcers' headsets. And
I fucking loved it. And I think a lot of people did. But
sure they did.
Each to his own. We had Triple H
wrestling is dead.
We had Triple H backstage with all his merry men. And they ended up...
And they were all facing the camera like good soldiers.
It wasn't like...
So awkward.
Looking at the HDMI input, fucking Narky Cat or whatever his name is.
Yeah, Snarky Cat, yeah.
Yeah. That was an interlude. If only he was working in the hotel in Mayo, I would have been absolutely sorted if I'd asked that question. But, yeah, they all ended up chanting fight, and that was it. It wasn't great.
No. Look, to be fair, I actually enjoy... I appreciate what they're trying to do.
No, I think Triple H really tried so hard in this feud, and... the build up to this match, he tried so hard, but it just never felt like it meant anything.
He was still burying people left, right, and centre as is his want.
Well, you know, that's because he knew that it was all about him and Sting. So
yeah, that's true. I've this picture of Hunter sitting at home with his girls, like, and one of them does their first drawing, and he goes, "Oh, it's not bad for a fucking retard," you know? Like he can't help himself. Do you know what I mean? Like he thinks he's putting someone over, and he's still burying them. That's genuinely the image I have of him.
Adam Rose and the Bunny versus Titus O'Neil and Heath Slater. Yeah, I don't know. The Bunny scored the pin and then celebrated and did the dive off the thing, and Adam Rose was very upset. We had a Roman Reigns interview via satellite. This was the best one yet. He's been doing acting lessons, Ken. Can't you tell?
I'm gonna make it rain up in this bitch.
I wanted to get sick all over my legs when he said that.
Written. Anyway.
It's just terrible, that.
Yeah.
But in general, he seemed a lot more confident and a lot more fluid. So I think these acting lessons are doing well for him. And I can only presume we're building up to Roman Reigns versus JBL at the Rumble.
Presumably, yeah.
You'd be very excited about
Delighted, yeah. Like I was when Jericho came back to feud with JBL.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Do you ever think of that really awkward thing where like JBL like tied like a rope around Jericho's
neck?
Yeah,
dragged him.
That's fucking horrible. Alright, we had Team Cena backstage. Cena did his usual zany pep talk. And have you noticed with Dolph's promos recently, he's been really somber and serious in his delivery. I've been noticing the last few weeks with Dolph. It's an interesting one. AJ versus Nikki Bella for the Divas title. I don't even know what's going on here.
No. The announcers. Okay, so what happens here is Brie gets up in the apron. AJ comes over to her. Brie kisses AJ, who then gets hit with a rack attack by Nikki and pinned. And Brie celebrates with her sister, but her sister is still ordering her about. So it's not like this was a pre-planned thing. But the announcers aren't like selling it big time at all. They're just like, so what's going on here? Are they back together? But then the next night there was no kind of playing up. Are they? Aren't they? They are back together, but it's like they just didn't really. Brie didn't really have a heel turn. It's just strange.
Yeah, and Nikki's still not treating Brie as an equal. And I was thinking to myself, okay, so this is either a case where Nikki for some reason has got Stockholm's, or Brie for some reason has Stockholm syndrome, has just turned heel after everything that's happened, or like Muse, brilliant, or it's a case where Nikki was just getting revenge for AJ costing Bryan the match, or Brie, but that doesn't even make sense.
It doesn't make any sense, no.
Yeah, okay.
Anyway, it wasn't AJ's fault.
No, really. Of course not. In fact, it was Bryan's fault because he demanded the kiss.
But we should have appreciated it, as that did ruin our buzz in Miami.
Yeah, me and Ken were sitting beside each other in Miami when that happened, and there's no time, no good
time.
time.
My wife to this day will talk about how she just looked like she was up for Sheamus, you know. She loves Sheamus, and remember she jumped up and started applauding, going, ah! And like she said, me and you just looked like someone just shat in her cereal. Like we were just sitting there like in shock and horror. You remember Vince Verhey, who was at the show as well?
Yeah,
talked about how that like he was 2 or 3 hours just sitting there like miserable. I didn't recover till the Punk match.
I didn't either.
No, we had to watch like a 10-minute flow ride concert. You know what I mean?
I remember.
And
Yeah, I
Brodus
remember.
Clay.
It was like Sheamus, or sorry, it was Big Show and Cody. I
It
was
got
just
5 minutes. And
sit-
Kane and Randy Orton.
yeah. Oh fuck that!
Yeah.
All right, so the main event was excellent of Survivor Series. It was really like the quintessential WWE multi-man match. It's just booked perfectly. It started off with Mark Henry charging into a fist from Big Show.
Can I just pause you before we get into this match in detail? I just wanted to know, it's been probably 15 years people have been talking about, would this moment ever come? You know what I mean? And I just want to know, did you ever think you'd see the Big Show turn heel?
I knew that was a lead-in.
Did you know where that was going?
Of course I did. All right, we'll get to that. Let's see who was. Oh yeah, then Ryback was next out. Now this
Yeah, Ryback was built up for like a month and he's buried in 2 minutes.
2 TV shows are based around the Ryback.
Yeah.
2 TV shows, 2 episodes of Raw
Yeah.
based around. So what happened was they got very upset because he's not a good wrestler.
Yes.
When he had his match with Cesaro
Breaking
at the
news.
Go Home show, and they decided to give the spot at the end to Dolph Ziggler.
Yeah, which, could you imagine
Could
if
you
they'd
imagine?
been with the Ryback?
Sting would have got booed if he put the
Probably.
Ryback on top of Seth.
Punk would have been at home sitting in front of his TV going, fuck you, steroid guy.
Like, could you imagine how clunky Seth and fucking Ryback would have been at the end of
Yeah,
that
I
match?
know.
So thankfully they've come to their senses. I just like Ryback on Raw. I will get to it. I just like it. Just needs to stop.
What?
Just Ryback. It just needs to
No,
end.
it was a great Ryback moment on Raw.
He acts. He just still acts exactly like a heel with his half cocked smile going.
That was fucking brilliant, Neil.
All right, hold on. We'll get there. I'm sorry. Okay, so let's see. He lost 2 rounds because of a curb stomp. Rusev got counted out when he did a splash from one table to the other, trying to destroy Ziggler before he was able to move out of the way. So that had Rusev. That was Triple H ordered him to do that, which I guess was part of the thing, and Lana was very upset.
Shut up.
Rollins used a flying knee on the head to beat Roan, and then Harper pinned him, or to get Roan down. Harper pinned him with a clothesline. Then it
Can I
was
just
basically
interrupt you
left
for a
with
second?
yes.
Now that we've had a month or two of the Wyatts being separate, right? Why on earth? What is the benefit to having Harper and Rowan on their own?
Because this is the only way to have a Eugene-esque babyface without outwardly saying that he's got mental disabilities.
Right. I don't see that as a benefit for myself. But
No,
anyway,
I don't either.
and poor Harper, he's got good work, but he needs someone with him. I put Jake Roberts with him, but anyway.
Oh, that'd be great. Harper, I love Harper. Like
He's
I love
real
him.
good. He's
I
real
love
good
him.
in the ring.
Yeah, he's great. Okay, so
He should be the leader of the Harper family. That was the Freudian slip that week.
I know what. Okay, so basically, Dolph was completely destroyed on the outside of the ring. Cena was just coming to his feet, and Show was standing there. Brian, our friend, texted me going, I hate the Big Show. He's been a professional wrestler for over 15 years, and I saw that coming a mile away.
He was just so awkward, though. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so Show punched him with the explanation being that
He saw the match was going against him, so
yeah, and he knew that even though the stip said he'd be fired, that as long as Hunter won, he could always make sure that he wasn't fired. They really didn't address this properly the next night. They had Big Show actually be a heel. And it was amazing. I actually thought the Big Show promo was amazing for a variety of reasons, but we'll get there. It left Ziggler against Harper, Kane, and Rollins. A Zigzag took out Kane.
He zigzagged the first two.
Yeah,
Kane
and then
Harper.
he schoolboyed Harper.
Oh, I see.
And then we had Ziggler versus Rollins for several minutes. And if
That
this,
was great.
Yes, if this is a window into the main event program in a few years' time.
Is it though? Because they don't.
Oh,
they
yeah, I
give-
don't think it is, but if it was, I'd be chuffed.
Yeah, I thought that Ziggler was the best performance of his career. I thought.
Yeah, he was magic, wasn't he?
I for years, I would look at potential new baby faces and think who could be the next Shawn Michaels. And I remember about 6 years ago when John Morrison just turned babyface and he had that great match with he had a great match with Punk on SmackDown. This was not when he was ECW champion. This was when Punk was world champion on SmackDown. Then he had a great match with Edge, and then he had that terrific face-to-face match with Ray. Remember that one for the Intercontinental Championship?
Sure.
I remember thinking, is this the guy who could kind of be Shawn Michaels closing the show? And then this was the first guy I'd seen in a few years where I thought that this guy can sell well enough that he can get people into him, and if he was given the rub, which he'll never will be, he could be quite something. He doesn't need to quit promos, and he needs to get rid of the fucking tights he wears, but other than that...
Are his tights that bad?
Yeah, it's like Chris Jericho in 1999, you know what I mean?
Look at Sean's tights. So Sean had some, like, gaudy looking tights, but they never stopped him. Like, look at what Sean would wear to the ring, Ken.
Yeah,
He's
I know.
dressed as a village person with mirrors attached to him. Okay, so we had lots of interference from Mercury Noble, and then eventually Triple H just getting outraged when Ziggler got several near falls. Hunter was in the ring after
Eating men up.
Yeah, after he gave Ziggler the pedigree, and that's when a crow came on the screen.
And I was like, it's Raven! Raven's come to save the day!
Yeah, I think they did rehash a few things. I think it was the crow from the start of the Raven music.
I actually genuinely first thought this is Raven. He's going to come out and
No,
say
you
we were
didn't.
never independent contractors. We're employees, you bastards.
No, you did not
That was
think
going to
that.
be the whole new angle, you know?
And Sting's, I don't know if you noticed this, but I'm going to ruin Sting's entrance for you.
It was already ruined. It was such dreadful music.
Sting's music, I believe, is some sort of remix of the Ringmaster music.
That's what a few people said, yeah.
I don't know if it is or not. But
No, it's
yeah.
just all slow and there's nothing really happening. Then it just hits this weird guitar solo. It's just terrible.
Would you have liked his
Yeah,
WCW music?
yeah.
With
no
the big
question.
drums?
This to me is...
Do they have the rights for that, though? Could they use that?
Because they had it on the video game commercials, so I assume they do.
Bastards, yeah.
This to me was second only to the Bret Hart music in 2010 in their, like, you had to go and mess with it moments. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Actually, the Bret one, though, see, the Bret one is at least more similar.
Neil, when you and I were watching that,
I know, we thought something had happened.
we thought, they made the scratch, you know, goes, and then it goes, scratching the guitar. People are just loving that noise.
Oh, yeah, it's perfect.
And we were just like, oh, it's the Hart Dynasty. You know what I mean? We were just
Yeah.
like, what's happening here? You know what I mean?
Yeah, it was crazy. But he came out, and the entrance was really nicely lit. He took his time walking to the ring. He looked to be in good shape. What was interesting when he climbed the ring with Hunter is it's nice to see somebody come in and you look at them and you go, well, at least they can't give out about his size. Because he's taller than Hunter, like.
Is he?
Yeah.
One thing I noticed, it's one of those things. I've watched Sting in TNA for years, and I've always thought that with the paint, it's helped him not look old when obviously he is getting old, you know?
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was partly because his makeup didn't go high enough up his head, so it made him look... His makeup, if he'd put more on around the sides, it would have made it less obvious, I think, that his hairline was so far receded.
Oh, really? Do you think?
Maybe,
I don't know
thought.
if he could have saved that.
Well, and then, of course, you saw the bald spot, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that. Yeah, no, yeah.
But the 3 minutes where they eyed each other up, right? We've talked about my disappointment with modern pro wrestling a lot on this podcast, Neil.
Yes, we
This
have.
was the first time since, I think, Punk in 2011 that I was leaping up and down in front of my television applauding. I was so excited to see Sting. And I knew he was going to be there. You know
I know,
what I mean?
yeah. I was crying. I was
Oh, it's
blubbering.
unbelievable.
I was just like, it's Sting.
It's the... you know what I said? I remember. I kept going, it's the Sting! It's the Sting! I just kept saying it. There's no one else in the house, Neil. I was just yelling, it's the Sting! No wife, no child. I was by myself going, it's the Sting! I just was so excited, like.
Not the Stinger. Or not the man called
no.
Sting.
No, it's because I have that Davey Boy Smith promo. Dave, I'm here to fight the Sting! Oh, the Sting. I wanted to text you and say it's the Sting.
So we had... So we had basically them eye each other up, as Ken said, for about 3 minutes
And
before
then they
Hunter before Hunter said, "Fuck this! What are you
Yeah.
doing here?" And then he went to hit him, and Sting looked really quick ducking under this
Yeah.
this punch. This was great. And then he kicked him with a kick down such ferocity it rendered Triple H stunned for 25 seconds.
And then he hit his death drop and
Yeah, which they didn't call until after he'd left the ring because
they didn't know the name.
they didn't know the name of it because they're such cunts. Oh, by the way, there's so much we could say about the commentary. We won't, but there's
They
so much we
overdid it.
could
They
say.
should have let the moment breathe a bit, I think.
Absolutely. Two things. First off, yes, make it breathe. They could have done... Do you know what I would have done? I just think it would have been pretty simple. Just cut to the announcers standing up.
Yeah.
Not saying anything.
There you go.
Like, that automatically...
That's
everyone,
brilliant, actually. Neil.
yeah, people would have just been like, oh, shit. That's all they had to do.
Yeah.
But instead, Sting comes out, presumably completely unexpected, and JBL has all his stats right there that he's reading before
Yes.
he's even gotten
He's
into
a
the ring.
two-time NWA
Yeah.
champion.
I was just like, what? Oh, you just know this off the top of your head? No, you don't. Yeah, that was bullshit. Anyway,
Yeah.
so Sting then put Ziggler on top of Rollins. I bet you when he touched Ziggler, that Ziggler got he definitely
Yes.
wasn't on the flop.
I was thinking to myself, I bet Ziggler was very pleased with that.
Yeah, and that was it. So Triple H and Stephanie had a little bit of a tantrum, which brought us to Monday Night Raw.
Oh,
What did you think of
gosh.
the? What did you think of the Survivor Series?
I
main
thought
event?
that the Survivor Series show had no matches over 2 stars, and the main event I thought was a 4.5 star match. I thought it
Yeah.
was terrific. I said to you, and it's funny because I said this to you, and then I listened to the Observer show, and Dave said the exact same thing. This was your archetypal one match show, and I always go back to, for some reason, it's the one that I always think of, Over the Edge in 1998 with Foley and Austin. With with the Stooges of like referees, timekeepers, all that stuff. Remember?
Yeah.
And the match finishing by my hand only. Remember that?
Yeah.
That was, if you remember that card, it was toilet. It was just terrible.
This is the month after Mania, wasn't it?
2 months after Mania, yeah.
Oh, was it?
The month after was Unforgiven when Austin and Foley went to a no contest and Austin hit Vince in the head with the chair for the first time.
Ah, yes.
Greensboro.
That was the first Inferno match.
Yes.
Okay.
And anyway, yeah, I just remember that the show itself was dreadful, but that one match was so good that the previous 2 hours didn't matter, and that was the Survivor Series. I think if you were a newbie to the pay-per-views, you'd be like, these aren't really worth their money. But then at the end of the night, it's all you really remember. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Whereas compared to, there have been WrestleManias, several of them, like 25 for example, where they peak really early and then it ends on a downer, and that actually leaves a worse taste in your mouth.
Absolutely, completely agreed. Okay, so
And when Ross began, and the first thing we heard after the Survivor Series ended with JBL saying, whoever wins this match, we're either never going to see Ziggler again or we're never going to see Triple H and Stephanie again. And Raw opened. There was literally not a second of screen time without Hunter and Steph.
yes,
And they couldn't just show their ass like Vince would in this situation. They had to get their heat back. And Steph was like, I'm leaving, and all this kind of shit before Brian came out. And it really irritated me because they should have just been desperate and begging. And I thought, what they should have done as a little homage? They should have had Stephanie dragged up the ramp on Hulk Hogan's leg. Dixie Carter. They should have done it, Neil.
listen, brother, that ramp is far too big compared
That's
to the
true,
TNA one for Hogan to make it up.
All right, so Triple H and Steph cut a 10-minute promo. Nothing. 15 minutes. It was so fucking
I think
long.
this was 10 minutes.
No,
because
it was
Brian
15. 'cause
went
the whole
15.
segment was 31.
Brian went a long time. Go ahead. So,
Anyway, so the Triple H and Steph cut a promo for 15 minutes trying to get their heat back. Then they're going to leave. And
they
Daniel
blame
Bryan-
Sting. It was very obvious they're going towards Sting and Hunter, obviously. Like,
Yeah.
this was the crux of the promo. Hunter did say, like, are you doing this to make yourself relevant and stuff, which is great, because that's exactly what he needs to say.
Yeah, try and bury him. And so then Daniel Bryan comes out, and for some reason he's the general manager, even though Vince would have been the person who put him in charge. It makes no sense. And he kind of yes chants in their face, which at the end kind of came off almost heelish. But I thought it was
It did not.
I thought it was a good punchline to an overly long joke, and then he makes a bunch of matches. for
Yeah,
the
he came out. When he started following them up the ramp and doing it to them, I thought it was pretty good. But yeah, then he brought out the Team Authority, and just rather than going through the segment, we'll just kind of mention what he did as we go through the show.
Yeah.
The one thing that we should mention though is that he had a app vote for Seth Rollins' partner against Cena and Ziggler for the main event, and it was pushed very heavy that it would end up being Mercury and Noble,
J&J
who are called J&J Security, which is nice. So that was it was half an hour before we had our first match, and this was such a wacky match. We had Mark Henry against Ryback, who was getting revenge for losing at WrestleMania almost 2 years ago, and before we went to an ad break, Ryback came down, blindsided Henry from behind, and then started smashing his head off the barrier before he went to break. When we came back then, he just killed him and won.
Yeah.
It's like, how is this guy a babyface? He turned on the show 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
He was beaten first at Survivor Series, and now he's coming out and being a dickhead to Mark Henry.
Poor Mark Henry, like.
There was a spinebuster in this match where I would be convinced more than anything I've ever seen in pro wrestling that Mark Henry was completely winded and so hurt.
Mad, yeah.
He was just like, you could see his Ryback. It doesn't surprise me at all that he injured Punk as much as he
big
did.
guy.
He's just
Yeah,
reckless.
he is, yeah.
All right. Backstage, we had Triple H and Stephanie. They were leaving the arena. Vince McMahon's ears, which are also attached to a smaller thing known as his face, were talking.
I just don't understand why he made this match.
Because he wanted to test them, God
Why
damn
he
it.
can't just, if he wants to run it, why can't he just have them run it from Stanford? Or why can't he just run it himself? None of it makes any sense.
Yeah. Have you seen the size of his
let's
ears,
move
though?
along.
His
It's
ears.
just so stupid.
Have you seen his ears, though? Did you notice his ears?
No, I haven't.
They're just so big now.
There was steam coming out of my own ears. I wasn't paying attention to his.
Yeah, he basically said that they had nothing to apologise for because he's never been sorry for anything in his life. The only thing is potentially sorry for is that
It's
he
the
might
quality of this show.
he might have to spend Thanksgiving with them. And then they all got in a limo. So we had Dean Ambrose versus Luke Harper, which was another for the Intercontinental Championship, which was another match made by Daniel Bryan. This is a fine match. It was absolutely nothing special by any means.
I thought it was on its way to be better than the match with Whalen the night before. But
Really? Okay.
Yeah, I just enjoy Harper's work more.
I
But
love him too.
But yeah, of course we got no finish.
No, because Bray interfered to kind of basically...
No, we got no finish because Harper pushed Ambrose, who nudged into the referee, who dropped to a knee.
Oh, yes.
And this incredible act of defiance was a disqualification. It was ridiculous.
Is the reason they did this because they felt that if they were to have Wyatt interfere for the DQ...
You'd be acknowledging the two of them.
Yeah.
Even still, it was so awkward the way Harper just disappeared.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, you're not mates anymore, you know.
Not pals at all.
Yeah, no.
Then we had Larry the Cable Guy, who I didn't know anything about. I read about him before this show.
This didn't look like Jim Carrey.
Yeah, no, I know. He's one of these guys that's like literally he could only be famous in America kind of thing. He has no outside of the state's value. He's a gimmick comedian, where he's a fake hick comedian.
I see.
Okay.
Oh, I thought he was a real hick.
Yeah, maybe he is from the south, but it's all
Wasn't he on Steve Austin's
played for show. Oh, he must have
I think
been.
he was, yeah.
I definitely skipped that one anyway. Him and Santino came out. He looked like Vader. He started mentioning people like Uncle Elmer and Randy Savage, although it was a different Savage. This was horrific.
Yeah.
Goldust and Stardust entrance interrupted them, and then they went to the back.
Yeah, it was just weird. And then Miz and Mizdow beat Goldust and Stardust.
Yeah, Lillian introduced him as Damien Sandow.
Yeah, no, so that was great.
Do you think she'll get fired like
Probably,
Justin Roberts
yeah.
did? Yeah, amazing. Backstage, we had Kane working a concession stand. This is one of the best things about the Bryan promo. Bryan looked genuinely like he was shitting himself, calling him Concessions Kane instead of Corporate Kane. And anytime Bryan...
This is just taken from Slam City, you know that. This is what Kane does in Slam City.
I fucking forgot about that.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
That's so funny.
And
that's even funnier.
His
then.
episode is with Santino as well.
That is even funnier.
I know.
That
And
makes
it's the best episode of Slam City.
That's fucking brilliant. What do you think of Bryan in the ring for 50 minutes talking? I think because everyone's...
all right.
I thought it was fine for Bryan. 'Cause you know that sometimes Bryan seems a bit overwhelmed by it all.
Yeah, it was all right.
Yeah. There was a fake boss who was yelling at him saying that he was going to be...
She was bad, by the way.
oh, she was
She was
terrible.
falling all over him. Just like, is this Bret Hart in 1994 here?
Yeah. Was she worse than the woman who accused Bryan of having the affair on Raw? That's
I think it was the same woman, actually.
It wasn't.
I think, was it Claire Lynch, maybe?
Exactly.
Anyway.
Lana and Rusev came out.
Where did that angle go, by the way?
Which one?
The affair.
Oh, yeah. Dropped like a bad habit. Lana and Rusev came out. They were told earlier in the show by Bryan that they either had to sing the pledge, recite the Pledge of Allegiance
I think they should have sang it.
with with an American flag. And did you ever see the backstage pass, the Raw backstage pass, where it's Nikolai Volkov and Rusev singing the Russian national anthem together?
Yes. Yeah. I did see that,
Incredible.
actually.
So he could do it anyways, the point. Bryan said either he did that or he had to put up the US title in a battle royal against everybody on the roster.
Yeah.
Yep.
So Lana started to do the Pledge of Allegiance, not Rusev, who just stood there doing nothing.
Which she started to do because she was being bullied by an OAP. That's
Yes,
right. Sergeant
by
Slaughter.
Sergeant Laughter.
Sergeant Slaughter, who's been heavily deflated since the last time we've seen him.
And then Rusev just said, let's not do this anymore. And Swagger came out to stop him from attacking Slaughter in a run-in from 6 months ago, and that was that.
Terrible.
Awful, yeah.
Um,
This was paid off on SmackDown when they did this Battle Royal.
Okay, no problem. Yeah, it's just so weird, Jack Swagger. Are they going there again, or what are they doing?
No, he was the last eliminated in the Battle Royal. I think that's it.
Okay. Then we had a backstage segment with Kane, and he poured mustard all over Santino and then gave Larry the Cable Guy a hot dog.
And said, I'm a big fan.
He said he's a fan.
Which everyone in the world apparently thought was hilarious.
I don't know why.
He's all right. Like.
Fandango defeated Justin Gabriel for the second night in a row. Backstage, we had the Big Show.
Still no sign of Rose's chest here. By the way.
No, she's still wearing the same thing. This was the thing is, in context, this Big Show promo would have been so much better if they didn't show him backstage actually just being a heel.
I can't debate a Big Show heel turn promo.
Just listen to me. Just hear me out here. Hear me out. So Big Show, like, he comes out basically, and he starts talking about how he had no other choice. and how he's sad that he's been inflicted with this disease that makes him big and strong. And he says there isn't anybody on the planet who's never made a mistake. And he starts getting really, really upset. Now, this would have been great if they hadn't shown before the break him being really mean to a stagehand backstage. Because then you'd be like, oh, is he genuine?
Or it would have been really great if you hadn't turned heel and face 31 times, which, by the way, that's a real number, people.
Yeah, is it not 32?
32. He's had 32. So that's what I'm saying. This was his 32nd. So he's turned heel to babyface or babyface to heel 32 times in his career.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
And then he got really, really angry when the crowd weren't happy with what he was trying to feed them, and said that basically, you know,
I'm a heel, basically.
I'm a heel, yeah.
He should have said, listen, here's the situation. It's been long enough, I'm a heel. I would have preferred that. That would have gotten over with me.
Then we had music hit that nobody is familiar with yet, that being Eric Rowan. He came out and he took his mask off. He's a giant man. JBL called him an upside down... Or sorry, Big Show called him...
I didn't get this.
Big Show called him an upside down Sheamus.
I don't understand this at all. I was like, what?
How do you not understand it?
Because Sheamus has red hair and red beard.
Yeah, it's the hair, because it's the spiky hair, and he's got spiky hair, but it's coming from the other side of his face. The reverse
But that
side.
would mean Sheamus was clean shaven. I don't understand.
It would mean Sheamus is clean shaven.
It didn't work, basically.
Hey, look, listen, I thought Big Show was incredible.
Big Rowan looks like an upside down Noel Keeley myself.
I think that I think that Big Show was incredible here.
Here, that's up to you.
All right, cool. Yeah, no, I'll keep you posted. Backstage we said Roman. We said Roman. Ken.
Seth Rollins.
We had backstage we said Rollins belittling his
Noble and Mercury,
yeah.
who referred to themselves as the Shield 2.0.
I love that. Then Dolph came in and said that he's going to ask all his Twitter followers to vote, and if they did, it was only a small portion because we got the numbers later.
Yeah.
Brie Bella defeated AJ with help from Nikki. So this is pretty much like their
AJ.
Yeah, she had a few things to say.
She said, "Let's be honest," which was supposed to be a little gag.
I liked it.
She said to the two women as they were leaving that talent is not sexually transmitted, and I was like, "Pot? Kettle?"
I know.
What?
Probably. But I know.
Like, I just thought it was very, very funny.
Okay, we had Larry the Cable Guy and Santino on comedy. They were just all over the place. They were promoting Jingle All the Way too. Was Jingle All the Way that film?
Was there
with
another segment?
Schwarzenegger, huh?
Yeah, with the Big Show in it. What's this segment though? I don't remember.
This is when they were on commentary.
Oh, fuck off.
For Tyson Kidd and Natalia against the Bunny and Adam Rose. And
I was just... Larry the Cable Guy was terrible. I was just waiting for him to say, how much does this guy weigh, Gorilla?
yeah, it was ridiculous. The Bunny tripped Adam
What
Rose.
does this guy weigh?
The Bunny tripped Adam Rose by mistake when Tyson reversed an Irish whip.
The best thing about that show...
That was that?
...was when Gorilla just stops paying any attention. In the early part of the show, he's like, oh, he's about 250, Art.
Yeah.
We're talking about Art Davies' commentary against the Ring
Art
before.
Donovan,
and then
Art Donovan, Art
about
Davies. Who the fuck is Art Davies?
whose book I just read. Anyway, Art D, whatever.
Art Donovan. Art O'Dono.
Art Donovan. And then within an hour of the start of the show, literally all that he can contribute is, how much does this guy weigh, Gorilla? And Gorilla just starts outwardly ignoring him.
Yeah.
So does Savage.
Yeah, see, Savage is clearly a mark for him at start, because obviously we know from the Savage documentary he wanted to be a sportsman himself.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, basically, Art makes a reference to football, going, this guy would make a hell of a linebacker. And Savage, like, just completely, for the only time ever in WWF television, breaks character and goes, well, actually, be a great defensive right, because if you... And starts going into, like, this, like, kind of theory of where Erwin Shyster would be best suited playing for an NFL team.
Yeah.
And then eventually, by the end of it, Savage just also ignores him. Oh, well, how tall is this guy? How much does he weigh? All right.
What's this guy weigh, Gorilla?
Hey, Gorilla!
And just literally completely ignore him. It's fucking brilliant.
Okay, backstage we had Ryback talking to
Have
Renee.
you seen a picture of Brock Lesnar and his wife at an airport looking at the departure screens while someone's trying to talk to them and they're completely ignoring him?
No.
Oh, no, it's a video, sorry.
Uh-oh.
Someone's trying to ask for like a photo or an autograph, and they're literally just staring at the screen, ignoring this guy. And Brock kind of just then looks at him, gives him this evil look, and looks away again.
Right.
Anyway, it just reminded me that was the visual version of what they did to our Dave here.
Check that out. Okay, so
By the way, Rena still looks like she did 10 years ago. Amazing how that happens after 2 kids.
in 2003.
Yeah.
That's amazing because she didn't look anything like she did in 1998 and 2003.
That's true, yeah, that's
So,
very true.
It's pretty incredible.
It was unbelievable. She looked like a different human being, didn't she?
Yeah.
Frail.
Backstage we had Ryback and Renee. He said that he's done with Henry and now he's hungry and wears a good concession stand with a stupid heel laugh that he still does. I think the New Day debuts on Raw next week. They actually debuted on SmackDown. Yeah. Backstage at the concession stand, Ryback went up and
the concession stand wasn't backstage, I don't think.
Okay, sorry, it wasn't backstage. It was in the concession area.
Yes.
And I think he said to Kane, he goes, I want a protein shake with extra protein for the big guy.
Again, that little brawl. And as Kane
he looked like he killed him. He pushed the table into Kane, which then went to the back wall.
I think he hit Kane's big giant cyst on his back.
I think he probably hit his 13-inch flaccid cock that was written into See No Evil by Vince McMahon.
Which isn't in See No Evil too, you'll be devastated here. But anyway, then he said, Kane, you forgot your nuts.
It wasn't that good at all.
His entire podcast was worth that moment when I tried to impersonate him and then actually laughed. It was a look on his face. I just saw a gif of it and someone put the words over it. Have you seen this?
No.
It's just it was awful, like, but the Ryback I just want to see, I think just vignettes of the Ryback trying to like make a cup of coffee and put in like creamer and sugar in the morning, you know, and like breaking the ribs of the coffee cup.
Did you like the way that Brian referred to him as the Ryback in the opening promo?
I did, yeah. That's where that originates from.
Yeah, I know. Brian used to bully the man a lot, supposedly, when they travelled together. So backstage we had Dolph and Cena talking about what happened at Survivor Series. Dolph was being really serious, and then Cena started cutting a really wacky promo. Always referring to himself now as the man that, what does he call himself? The guy who runs the place. What's it? It's something that rhymes, isn't it?
I don't know.
I don't know. But anyway, Cena's been outrageous the last few weeks.
He has been, yeah.
Don't know what he's up to. I'm starting to like him though.
Oh God.
Then we had John and Dolph just destroy the lads. Basically, that was the entire main event. Then the good guy celebrated in the ring at the end.
I was sitting there going, well, it's kind of a dull end. I actually, at this exact moment, I was thinking, I'm really disappointed because I thought this could be a really good Raw.
Yeah.
And then the iPhone went off and the podium was just there. I was like, did anyone notice this? That it was there, and
Brian was also in the ring at this stage.
Cole looks over in shock, like, "Oh, where did that podium come from?"
Well, Cole was more than happy to go up and do his shtick.
That was one thing, but then the fact that it kept beeping as it went off the air,
I thought that was so funny.
I thought it was terrible.
It was turn off the TV kind of heat, but I thought it was hilarious in terms of the sense.
Well, I
turned
off the television. So.
I was laughing because John Cena was clearly laughing.
Yeah, I know. Yeah,
but so the anonymous GM's going to be there next week.
By the way, some people read this as though this was like he's back, the anonymous GM Hornswoggle, but I think it's just a 1 week thing.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah. Brian, I thought was great as guest host. After showing off the air, he basically said. He brought up to the crowd, he said, am I coming back soon? Yes, yes, yes. So people think that he's online for January now, which is nice.
I see it.
Oh, I don't think they would have brought him back to TV if he wasn't almost ready.
I think
he was actually coming back to get an evaluation. I don't know.
Anyway.
And Dolph super kicked Cole.
So he did.
Yeah. So that is pretty much all from us. They weren't two great shows, but it's been such a memorable week. Weird.
Yeah, just the Sting made the whole thing worthwhile.
Yeah. Did you think Raw was an improvement on the last few weeks? Or?
No, that was garbage.
Garbage. Absolute garbage.
It wasn't
not
a good wrestling match on the show.
I suppose that would help over the span of 3 hours.
Here's the thing. It's 3.5 hours.
Yeah.
There's almost no chance of it being good.
No, I agree. All right. Well, look, listen. We will review another show that is horrible. Survivor Series 94.
Is there anything I need to watch? Is there anything of great comedic value?
You need to watch the whole thing because I've watched the whole thing.
No, I know, but what I mean is there anything that I need to like watch out for, rather? Is there any match where I need to make sure I'm listening to the commentary close?
Let me look at my notes and come back to you.
All right.
Okay, so we will be back same time next week. You can get the archives for this and our MMA show at thisaintfake.com. All right, until then, thanks very much, Ken.
Ciao.
Okay, see you next week.